you're hanging out with just a set group of people and you're isolated to just these people and you're separated from your family.
Yeah.
And I don't know, it's just very cult-like to me. And I feel bad that I've associated it with that in my own head, but
That's
I didn't
interesting,
have,
though. That's a really
yeah.
interesting perspective. As many stories as I've heard from people who work in, who've worked in pipeline, listening to Chris stories and just
Mhm.
other people's, it's all very similar. Like the story you're telling, Chris says that when he would come back from a job for whatever, if he was off for a week or 2 weeks, he'd spend at least the first 3 days just like sleeping and laying around because he couldn't do anything. And I know that was hard, like sort of on the relationships in his life because he just couldn't engage with them. And he was
Yeah,
just
and
so
that's a very,
wore out.
very real because, I have my group of friends that still live in East Texas, and there would be times that I would go home or we would plan a trip and I'd be sitting there and they're going and they're talking and I'm sitting there and I'm like, I am so uncomfortable right now
Hmm.
because while I love them and I talk to them, probably every single day on our Snapchat group or our group messages or whatever, being in person with them is foreign to me. Y'all
Yeah.
aren't. And it started to break my heart because these are my best friends. These are people that have seen me through things and I've been in their weddings and we've been through those huge milestones together. But now that
Can't feel
I'm
like you can
physically with
relate.
you now, I feel like I'm so far away from
Yeah.
you guys. I don't feel like this is a very, even going and seeing my sister or my niece or my family, it's so foreign to me to be
Yeah.
around them. And it's very uncomfortable for me to be around them because they're not who I spent the last 3 years parked next to in my RV and seeing them every day. So
Yeah.
seeing them, it's so weird to me. It is. And I'm still adjusting to having that physical and in-person
Yeah.
relationship with people that I've known for my entire life
Yeah. It's
because
different when you have like a different lifestyle to everybody else. And I get a little bit of that with like the travel and stuff that I do. It's obviously been less in the last, I guess since COVID, I don't travel as much, but it's still weird for me, even when I was gone for 2 months. The last time I was gone for 2 months. And I remember when I came back home, and it's like this almost every time I come back home and I just feel so like out of place,
yeah,
because I spend like I'm just over there doing my own thing for so long. I'm not answering to anybody or, checking
exactly.
in with anybody. I
Yeah.
don't have people
Nobody's
needing
asking you to go
me.
do this or go here
Yes,
and yeah.
absolutely. Yeah. And it's just you come home and it's like you just get like bombarded with
Yes.
and they mean well. I don't, nobody's doing it to
Yeah.
be annoying or malicious or anything, but you're just like
Because they miss you
any
and they
little
want to
thing.
spend time with
Yeah.
you. Yeah.
But any little thing,
Yeah.
like you said, would just like triggers me, and I'm like I'm like, "Oh, like, this is so
But
stressful," and it's not
yes,
stressful at all, but, like, it feels stressful, and then when I go back over
stressful because
there,
it's out of your norm. It's out
it
of
is.
what you're used to doing. And
Yep.
like I spend a lot of time on my own. I
Same,
go to the
yeah.
movies by myself. I go
Yeah,
out to
same.
eat by myself, and I'm good with that because I've
Yeah.
done it for so long.
I love doing that. I think most people feel like, "How do you do that?" Like, I love like, if I've done
I do too.
traveling a little bit, sitting at, like, go to a bar or whatever and have dinner at the bar by yourself, like,
Yep.
I love it. I find it so peaceful.
Same. Same.
Yeah.
And it's just I'm perfectly okay with that.
Yep.
And one of my friends they were like, I really wanted this food, but nobody would come eat with me. And I'm eating by myself. And I feel very weird about it. I'm like, I love that shit.
Yeah.
I
It's
love
the
being by myself just
me
because
too.
that's where I find the most peace. That's where I find the most
Yeah.
solace. Like
Yep.
you said, you don't have people pulling you in every direction or, hey, come
Yeah.
do this. Hey, do this with me or come over. And it's just like, it's
Yeah.
too much on me because it's just out of the norm. Like
You're not
even,
used to it.
yeah. And
Yeah.
it's, it's an
You get back
adjustment.
into it. Yeah, you do
Yes.
adjust. Like right now, I'm so used to everybody needing me to do 100 things a day for them, help me with this, but I've been home for a long
Yeah.
time too. So when I'm gonna go back overseas next month, and when I get there, it'll be like at least 3 or 4 days that I just like sit and like I don't want to talk to anyone. I just like
Right.
take naps. Like I never
Yep.
nap. I
I'm
never nap
telling
at
you.
home
I
ever.
same. I don't either. I can't.
No.
But So right now, Joe and I are apart, and I'm finding myself, I'm stuck in this office for 8 hours, 9 hours with people. And I'm just like, when I'm used to being in a cab on my own
By yourself. Yeah.
and by myself and
Yeah.
not having to directly deal with people. Usually I'd get like a text message from my boss, hey, when you're done, go here or whatever. And it's like, okay, cool, but I don't have to actually speak to
Physically
you.
speak to, yeah.
Yeah. And even now, while Joe and I, so I'm in the camper during the day and Joe's up here on the farm. And so, like, I'm getting that at the end of the day, I'm getting that solace because I really don't even have to deal with my husband now during the week. So
Uh-huh.
that's probably like the best part of my day is because now I'm like, this is what I am used to. This is my happy place.
Yeah.
Whereas the whole day I'm just like fake smiling my way
Yeah.
through conversation because I don't talk to people this much. I don't, and
Yeah.
I find myself to be a pretty like sociable person, but on
Yeah.
my terms, you
Right.
know, being,
I can 100% relate to that. Like I'm not I'm fine at being social. I just don't
yeah.
choose not to a lot of the time.
Right. And it's like we can go out and I can be the life of the party. I promise
Yeah.
you. Like few beers in and I'm living my best life. I promise you.
Yeah.
But it's because I want to.
Yeah.
Being forced into being this social person at work. And I'm just like, and I feel like I'm coming off as one of those socially awkward people
Yeah.
because like something's like people will say stuff and I'm just like old pipeline me wants to be like very like I want to razz you and like, poke fun and joke and kind of just have that harsh sense of humor. And then I'll start to do that. And I'm like, this isn't the same environment, Ashley. So I'm trying to
Yeah.
reel it back in real fast. And then I just stop talking and I'm like, these people
Yeah.
probably think I'm insane, or
Yeah.
they think I'm a complete dry, rude person because I'm like, never mind.
Yeah.
Because I have
You'll
to like
find your
rethink
footing
about
though.
where I'm at. Yeah.
Yeah. You'll find
It's
your
just
footing
an
and
adjustment.
learn who you can mess with and who you can't. And
Yes, it's
yeah.
very it's like on Pipeline, I could, tell people to fuck off, leave me alone, or I could give them be a little bit more crass in my jokes.
Yeah.
And it doesn't matter because, well, HR doesn't technically exist out there. Because if you go complain, then you're just being a baby about it, and
Yeah.
nobody's going to want to work with you. So, but here now I'm in a very different environment. So I'm like, oh,
What can I say? What can't I say? Yeah.
yeah, I'm
Yeah.
trying to watch myself, and because it's like trying to change my whole personality
Yeah.
essentially. Because it's my initial reaction is make this really funny, probably inappropriate joke, and then I realize that I'm like not in that environment anymore, and I'm like,
Yeah.
I've got to do some work.
Yeah.
I've got
Life's
to
a
figure it out.
life's just a trade-off, and it's finding that balance, like where now you're getting the normalcy of an 8 to 5, 9 to 5, whatever, and you're getting that switch off from work. But then
Yeah,
it's the like kind of more like professional settings or office settings are so different because you have a different set of rules to play by. But
right.
then when you're out in the field, you have those whole other list of challenges or whatever. So it's really just I guess finding which difficult you like more.
Right, trying to, yeah, pick your
Yeah,
heart pretty much, like,
pretty much, yeah. But I think being able to be yourself speaks volumes in life
yes,
in general. Like getting to
yeah,
be like it's so rare that you get to be in settings where you get to be yourself all the
yes,
time. And I anymore I try to only put myself in situations where I can just be myself. It's hard, of course, and you do have
yes,
to be professional at times. And like I'm a pretty professional person. I like I'm pretty like professional maybe not be the word. I'm a pretty reserved conservative person, like by
right, yeah,
nature. So yeah, I don't like rarely do you see me kind of loosen up like around a very select group of
you,
people.
right,
Though I was at my brother's wedding. He got married on New Year's Day this year, and I was
oh,
sitting there, and I don't love weddings. Weddings aren't really like a good time for me. And
don't
when you're
either.
yeah, they're
I
just
can't
like,
have my own wedding, I'm not a fan
yeah,
of weddings,
I
you
would
know?
never, I probably won't ever have my own wedding either. Like they're just not
Go
my thing.
to
And
the courthouse, if you get
yes,
married or plan to get married, courthouse wedding, hands down.
yeah, that's probably,
My friends watch
that's,
this, I'm sorry, I loved being in your wedding,
And
I
I always think my friends' weddings are pretty, and my brother's wedding was very nice and all that stuff. I just personally don't have tons of fun at weddings, and when you're in weddings, it's different too, because then you've got all that. And I was sitting there, and I like the night had gone on long enough that everybody was kind of drunk, and like I had had a few drinks, but I wasn't like full on like kind of everybody else was, and I was just sitting at the table where my family was at, and I was sitting there talking to my mom, and this guy comes up, and it was a friend of my dad's. He kind of comes up and like gets in between my mom and I from behind, and he says to me, he was like, "Are you driving?" And I'm like, "No, my mom has a party bus service, and she had shuttles going back and forth from the
Oh, that's
wedding
cool. Yeah.
to the hotel all night long." And I'm like, "No, I'm
That's
staying at the
awesome.
hotel." Yeah, it was nice. It was
Yeah.
really nice. And it's like, "No, I thought it was really weird." And I was like, "No, I'm staying at the hotel or whatever." And he's just like, "Well, loosen up, have a little, it looks like you have a corn cob up your ass, like have a little fun." And I'm not close with this guy. Like I know
Yeah.
I've spent time with him like in group settings if I'm out like visiting my dad and they're all around. We're not close. Like
Right.
he's
Yeah.
not somebody I have that sort of rapport with or whatever. And I'm
Right.
just like, I wanted to be like, what the fuck? Like who do you think you
Yeah.
are?
Yeah. Who are
But
you?
like, yeah, but that's probably how I come off in crowds, is like a little uptight and all that stuff. But
Fair enough.
if I'm in the right setting, I
Yeah. And especially in new settings, I'm very much that way of
yeah,
like, I have to like scope the scene,
yeah,
make sure I'm comfortable with people because I
yeah,
know myself as a person. And once, like, if I'm just that little over too tipsy, I'll say some pretty like crass things
yeah, yeah,
and and I mean it wholehearted, fun, whatever. And then I realize that my audience isn't
yeah.
right for that. And I've
You're not,
immediately pissed off like 10 people and I'm like, this is
yeah.
gonna be a rough night. So I've learned to try and like find my place to where I can be
Read the
myself
room
and
a
be
little bit.
comfortable.
Yeah,
Exactly.
yeah,
And or I get in that sense of mind where I'm like, I just don't give a shit. I'm just gonna
right.
have the best I want to have. And if you're not having a good time, that's not my problem.
Yeah, that's a tough
which is
lesson to learn.
which is
Is
kind
like,
of shitty, but
well, you're not responsible for other people's fun or other
right.
people. Like it's just,
Uh,
yeah. That's
but
how Chris is. Chris just says
when it's like our
whatever.
people, yeah, yeah, he's very much
Yeah,
that way. Whenever we
yeah,
met him last month, he's a lot
yeah,
of fun,
yeah.
but and I admire that. I admire people who are
Me
just
too. Just
they're
themselves.
themselves 100%.
Yep.
And because I aspire to have that about myself and that where not the wherewithal, but the just that freedom of me and
Yeah.
just be like, I've lived my best life and I've lived to my true self all the time instead of
Yep.
being like
I
closed
made this
off.
decision for this person, or
Right. I
yeah.
feel like I try to be more of a chameleon and adapt to the people around me just so everybody is comfortable
Yeah.
when ultimately I put myself in an uncomfortable
You
position.
do. Yeah.
And I'm like, this isn't what I want to do though. Like,
No.
I don't get
And they're
a
not
ton of,
doing that for you. You know what I mean? There's
yeah,
nobody that's
exactly.
really doing that for
Exactly.
you either. So
Exactly.
you're only responsible for your own happiness. So
Yes, and that's something I'm trying to take on and just be like, I just want to live my own life and do what I
yeah.
want to do. And
Yeah.
if that doesn't fit in, then this isn't the right people for me. Then I'm gonna
Yeah. And like we were
find
saying earlier, jobs come and go. Like if you don't like working in an office, you can always go back to, there's going to
yeah.
be more trenchers to operate,
Yes, yes,
you know,
absolutely.
and it's all
Absolutely.
lessons. It's all lessons, all the stuff, the hard times or challenges you found out on the job or wherever working on pipelines. You'll take those lessons to the next
Absolutely.
job,
Yes.
and you'll say, okay, well, I'm not gonna do this time. I'm not gonna maybe take so many things to heart if he's
Yes.
being an asshole or whatever. I just not my thing. I'm gonna go do my job the best I possibly can. And
Right. And that's what I'm
yeah,
hoping to kind of with this stepping out of it, I'm seeing that I can flip that switch. I can cut that off from taking its toll on me. I'm
yeah,
not 100% at it yet, but I can see that potential where I'm like, okay, I can let this go. I can
yeah,
move on. And I can not let these little things get to me so badly. And
yeah,
I've also had to teach myself that everything is temporary. Whether
yep,
it's a bad time, a good time, this situation, whatever it may be, everything is temporary. And that
100%.
to enjoy those good times while you have them because they are temporary. And then the shitty times or that the way that I feel about myself in that moment, it's just temporary. And to
Yeah.
not, the longer I dwell in it and the longer that I sit in that mindset, I'm just prolonging the moving forward of it.
Hmm.
You know,
Yeah.
take it for what it is, accept it, understand that it's a temporary situation, and just move on from it. And
Yeah.
so this move has been a good one for my psyche for sure.
Just clarity. It sounds like you're getting a little bit of clarity, and
I am.
yeah.
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 Yes.
Slowing
Yes.
down a bit always does that for
Yes.
sure.
And we were able to, luckily, since we did work pipeline financially, we were able to put ourselves in we paid off a lot of debt. And
Yeah.
so we were able to make the transition to lower paying jobs smoothly.
Yeah.
We're not struggling. We're
Yeah.
probably saving as much as we were bef- working pipeline,
Yeah.
but we were financially sound enough and smart enough to say, okay, let's pay this off, let's pay this down. That way we don't have to worry about anything. And now, I mean, we're virtually debt free working simple jobs. And it's like the money wise side of things, we're good.
Yeah.
But we set ourselves up thinking we'll never make this money again. We have to
Again,
stay in it and we have to, and it's,
there's always opportunities though,
yeah, absolutely.
that's just a thinking flaw a lot of us have, is like there's never going to be this opportunity, or there's
Right.
never going to be this deal again, or this something
Yes.
always comes back around, like.
Mhm.
And I try to tell myself often, like, if that didn't work out, then just recently something happened. I was looking at some office space here in town, and it was this really cool building that I've been kind of eyeing up for probably about a year. And finally, I decided, my stepdad buys a lot of real estate around the area, and I was talking
Uh,
to him about it. He's like, "Well, let's just have a look at it and see, what they're thinking." He calls me back 15 minutes later, and he's like, "Oh, it sold yesterday." So then, besides getting, instead of getting disappointed, I was just like, "Well, it wasn't meant to be. There'll be another
right.
building that I love, or another office that I love, or whatever."
Yes.
There's just,
Acceptance, just acceptance for the
yeah,
situation. Know that, like you said, it's never the last opportunity. It's never
no,
the last, like, just because that
no,
one didn't work out, it's not that you're not gonna find the best office
something
space for you.
exactly,
See, you may go into something 10 times better and something that you fall in love with immediately, you
exactly.
know? But if you harped on that one spot, you wouldn't have your eyes open to the other
To the
possibilities.
other possibilities, exactly,
Yeah.
exactly. And yeah, that's all that is. That's probably like the transition that you're in right now, is just giving you the time to slow down. It was actually going to be my
Yes.
next questions. What are some of the things you wish you knew starting out? But you kind of answered that. It's like you're
Yeah.
answering that question now
Yeah. I've had a
taking a
lot
step
of
away.
time to just kind of reflect on everything and kind of
Yeah.
realize where my head was at versus where I want my head at. And the things was was I harping on things that don't really seem important now that I've stepped out, now that I've taken that, looked at the bigger picture, and just really being able to say, what do I want in life? And really the ultimate answer is I just want to be happy.
Yeah.
It's just really that simple. And so whatever makes me happy is the next step that we take,
Yeah.
and that's the focus. It's not, oh, I want to be the biggest badass female of doing this, and I don't want to do this. It's just like, will that make me happy? Fuck yeah, let's do it.
Yeah.
Just it's just that simple. Is it gonna make me happy? Yes. Okay. Is it gonna make me happy? No, then I'm out.
Yeah.
And just defining it that way versus I might be happy in like 5 years if I stick with it. And it's like
Yeah. Life's too
I
short
can't
for that. For
afford
that.
for yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
It's can't afford to waste 5 more years of what ifs and could be's and
Yeah.
just that's the question that I ask myself now. Is it gonna make me
Yeah.
happy? Cool, let's go.
Yeah.
And just move from there, just
Yeah.
navigate life that way. And I feel like it's been
We
very
all
eye
get
opening.
caught up in stuff we shouldn't. I've made every decision in the last basically 4 years based on student loan debt.
Yeah.
Like, how is this going to get me closer to being away from student loan debt? Where what I should be doing is what should I be doing that gives me fulfillment? Because then
Exactly.
that is eventually what leads to the financial security that I'm looking for too. Like, if I'm just
Yes.
looking, like, chasing okay, I got to do this because of the student loan debt. Well, I can't do that. Even though this might make me happy and make me feel fulfilled, it's not going to get me any closer to paying off that student loan debt. Like you're making decisions based on like just the wrong reasons, and it never gets you any closer. If I would have just had the mindset 4 years ago of I want to be happy, I want to be doing something I like, who knows? I probably could have been closer to paying off that debt, because the money stuff seems to follow when you're doing things you enjoy and you're giving it
Exactly.
your all because you love it and you have like the passion for it,
And you
instead of
don't
just
mind
working
putting
for money.
focus into it, or like
Yeah.
taking or fighting, or what's the word, or
Your instincts to do what you
dedicating
want.
more
Like,
time to it,
yeah,
and adventuring into other venues that could be profitable, because
yeah,
you're having so much fun with it and you are enjoying it and you are finding that satisfaction out of it. Like
yeah,
you said, the money follows, it's
yeah,
just, it's like being on ice. It just glides, it just works
yeah.
itself out.
But yeah, that's just kind of how I think of things lately. Is obviously me sitting and stressing about the student loan debt hasn't gotten me any closer to paying the student loan debt off.
Right.
So
Yeah. And that time has gone by regardless of what you do with it. So it's like,
exactly,
just,
yeah, might as well be
that's
happy
that's
with it.
another thing I've had to put in perspective. It's like, for instance, like say about losing weight or working out, and it's like, well, if I don't do it, 3 months is going to come and my body's not going to be any stronger if I don't do it.
Yeah,
Like that time is still going to pass. So what I do with that time is up to me,
yeah,
so it doesn't
yeah,
matter if I start on a Monday, or if I don't go to the gym on this day, or I do go on this day, that's up to me.
yeah,
Because in a year's time, I could feel better about my body, or feel stronger and feel more proud about my body. But if I don't do anything with that time, then it's just a waste of time,
yeah,
and
yeah.
then I'm just going to be complaining about it next year and doing the same shit over and
Same
over
stuff, yeah.
again.
Which is just stuff you learn as you get older. I think that like everybody's looking for like a magic answer, and it's just like you just gain that perspective as you get a little older. And you and I are not old by any means, but
No,
I'm sure
no,
there'll
no.
be some 40-year-olds listening to this and be like, oh my god, these two 30-year-olds sitting here talking about
Right.
time. But
Yeah.
it's
But
just
it's like,
filling your
did
time with
you have the
meaningful
same
stuff.
mentality when you were 30? Be proud that we're coming to
Yeah,
this,
yeah,
this
exactly,
acceptance about it. We're trying to
exactly.
learn before it's too late.
Too late until
Yeah.
you're 50 and you're like, I just wasted the last 20 years worrying about crap out of my control.
Exactly.
Yeah,
Exactly. And that's what I don't want to be. Like, it's 30 is not a death sentence, 40 is not a death sentence,
no,
50 is not a death sentence. There's still so much life to
there
live.
is. Yeah,
My husband's very big on that. He's like, oh, I'm 31. 32 now. And he's like, we're going to be old parents. And I'm like, we
a lot of
party
people.
with 50-year-olds, babe. Like, they
Yeah,
outdo us the
yeah,
whole time. Like, it's not a death sentence. It's really
no,
not. And
yeah,
I think it's finally gaining that perspective of like, age really doesn't matter. It's what you do and how you enjoy your
exactly.
life within that age. And
Yeah,
he started making me get in my own head about it. I'm like, I'm gonna be an old mother,
yeah.
by the time we decide to have kids. And I'm just like, there's still so much life to live,
Yeah. It's a weird
Or
transition
not.
period too, I think, between generations. Not everybody is
Yeah.
not having kids at 20 anymore.
Right.
So
Yes.
yeah.
And that's a big, big thing, his mom had them when she was in her late 20s, early 30s, and his sister had her last kid in her late 30s. And I'm like, why are you on me about this? Like,
Yeah.
you
Relax.
know, yeah.
Yeah.
But I guess he just sees it. Yeah, I don't know. He's very pessimistic about life in general. It's kind of
Yeah.
contagious. I
I could
think.
see that just in my brief interactions with him.
So, but I think that now that he's coming back to his roots and farming, and he's back to this happy-go-lucky, breezy kind of lifestyle now, he's lightened up so much. Like,
Yeah.
I don't think I've ever seen him this happy, to be fair.
So it sounds like it's both been good
Yeah.
for you guys to
Yeah. Yes. We're
get a
just going
little.
back to a more simpler way of life, of
Yeah.
farming and just that, I guess it would sound bad, but like we're just kind of going back in time where the husband works on the farm and the wife works in an office, and it's just simple,
Yeah.
no more, oh, we've got to take the camper here and we've got to do that and we don't have time off and we can't do this. It's like, I drove up yesterday and he's like, I'm gonna go, I've got a few things to do in the morning, and then I'm gonna take the rest of the day off and we're gonna go do this and look at furniture for the new house. And I'm just like,
Normal
whoa,
stuff.
how times have changed. Yeah, like
Normal
it's
people
just,
stuff.
yes. And
Mm.
it's just like, it's very, I don't know, there's something like very cathartic about it, to
Yeah.
like, we feel like we're kind of like, we've been married for going on 8 years now, and it's feel like we're doing things so backwards. Like now we're buying furniture for our new house
Yeah.
when we've lived in a camper for, I don't know, I feel like we're doing everything very
Backwards.
backwards.
Yeah.
So it's almost like we're going back into like this newlywed phase.
New.
And
Yeah.
it's pretty fun, kind of starting
Yeah.
over. I'll see if I can get them to carry me over the threshold.
I'll be interested to see how long before you guys get antsy again and have to go.
That is very possible.
Yeah.
Which I've already kind of looked into like the different venues of where I can go within this position.
Yeah.
And there is one that is more field based.
Oh, nice. Yeah.
So that's one thing I talked to him about. I was like, if I do get antsy, if I do get itchy feet again, this could cure that itch. Like I'll stay with the company. I can still be based to one location, but I can kind of run
Bounce
the roads
around.
and kind of
Yeah.
see different stuff and maybe kind of cure that, kind of keep
Yeah.
that at bay. A part of me, we really do want to start our family, and pipeline isn't really conducive to that, especially
Not when
the
you're both
females.
in it.
Correct.
Yeah.
Yeah. If he was in it and we decided that that's what we still wanted to do, that, then I would still be a stay-at-home mom, which is that's not in my nature under any circumstances.
Yeah.
Like I haven't even had a kid, and I can already tell you that's not happening.
Yeah.
Like he can get a car seat and take the baby to work and ride around on the tractor all he wants to if he doesn't want to pay for daycare. But I just don't have it in me to be. I just have, what's the word I'm looking for? I don't want to say too much pride. I just take pride in accomplishing things.
Yeah.
And my perspective may change once I do actually have children. So I don't want to sound,
You never know.
But
a lot of women's perspective does change when they have kids.
I shouldn't speak too soon.
But yeah, yourself better than anyone else. So.
And I know that I take pride in being able to help provide for my family, and I take a lot of pride in my individuality too. Mm-hmm. Like when it comes to my marriage, like my marriage is 100% the first thing that is important to me. I don't give a shit what jobs we're in. I don't care where we go. If it is detrimental to my marriage, it doesn't happen.
Yeah.
But at the same time, I am a firm believer that you do have to have happiness within yourself as a person. Like my happiness isn't solely based on my husband.
Yeah.
His happiness isn't
which
solely
is healthy. Which is healthy.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
So we both have to find our place and find what makes us happy individually in order for us to be a happy, healthy couple. And me being a stay-at-home wife and not contributing in a way that I don't find happiness in wouldn't be conducive for our marriage. Like me, when it comes to cleaning the house and contributing with the dishes and the laundry, that is the furthest thing from productive in my head for me.
For you.
Now there are many women that find so much pride in being able to take care of a home and kids, and for that I admire. Absolutely. And that's one thing. Like his mom is like the book of what a mother homemaker is supposed to be. She takes pride in what she does for her family and how she takes care of her home. For that, I mean, I just bow down to her for that, because I wish I had that type of unselfish thought. But for me, it's more about how can I make us comfortable? How can I keep us afloat, or how can I keep us, able to do extracurricular stuff, if that makes any sense.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, we're all different, and
I think a lot of people will view that as like super hardcore feminist, or like I don't know what they call the really crazy ones. But for me,
Yeah.
your feminism is about choice
Yeah.
as a woman. Like if you choose to be a homemaker and a stay-at-home mom, that's your choice, and I support that, and I admire
Yeah.
you for that. If your choice is to be a career woman and never have children, rock on, do you. It's about having choice as a female. And that's what feminism is for me. And that's one thing that I do support, but I don't support the anti men movement. I
No,
don't,
I don't
that's too
either.
much for me.
No, not at all. Yeah,
Yeah.
that stuff's all just been taken too far. We villainize men now, and that's a lot of reason. Not even just in like construction or pipeline or anything like that, but why everybody wants to talk about toxic masculinity all the time, which I don't even like that term,
I don't
um,
either.
but I like people don't ever stop and think of like why maybe there could be some toxic masculinity or toxic behaviors out of men because men are vilified, but they're also not given the outlet to express themselves without being made to feel embarrassed or guilty or ashamed or whatever. So human nature, no matter what, women don't have the best ways to express themselves either.
Yeah, no, for
Like
sure.
look at how some women express themselves.
Oh
But
yeah.
it's excused, whereas when men express themselves in negative ways
Because women are
after
allowed to
build
be
up
more emotional.
emotional, yeah,
Right. And
and
that is one thing you do see, in that industry, piggybacking off of men not being able to express themselves. They're being in that industry, men are made to be men, and you're supposed to be strong, and you don't
yeah,
get to be weak, and you don't get to show weakness, and you don't get to talk about your feelings. And
yeah,
so these men are isolated from their families, and then they're isolated within these so-called friendships they have working pipeline because they can't be themselves. They can't talk about their feelings.
yeah,
I've met a very good friend of ours, somebody that we care very deeply for, went through that. In that isolation of being by himself, he made some lapse decisions in his marriage, and he ended up cheating on his wife. He's
hmm,
very, upfront about it, but they ended up getting a divorce. Well, now he's not just isolated from his family, but now he feels like he doesn't have a family anymore.
yeah,
Then he's on pipeline, and he's hours and hours away from what he had, and he can't
yeah,
be there to fix it because he has to support himself now. And he admitted, he was like, I tried to commit suicide.
yeah,
And luckily, I mean, and he's kind of an exception to the rule. He actually went and got medication, and now he's stabilized, and he's on the road to being happy. I don't want to say he's ultimately happy yet, but he's working on it. But
yeah.
that doesn't happen a
No,
lot.
it doesn't.
Like I said, he's the exception to the rule. And he's very open about it, and he talks about it. And I think it's because he realized how much of how closed off he had put
To
himself,
become,
and
yeah,
how that transpired and where that took him.
yeah,
And, and I don't think that they don't see men as having those types of issues. They don't think that men
no.
can be emotional or have those feelings. And it's very unfair. It's extremely unfair.
It is very unfair, and it's really frustrating, and just yeah, just how there just isn't enough outlets for men. Like you do see more and more people talking about it now, and maybe small pockets of people talking about men's mental health and all that stuff, but it's still not enough to you're never going to erase such a massive problem, but to make it better. The stats that come out every year just in the industry alone on suicide and mental health keep getting worse. So obviously whatever we're doing isn't working.
Right.
So I don't know what the answer is. I think about it a ton. I try and come up with as many ideas as I can, but it's a long road, and hopefully eventually it's something that any any person in the industry, it is a male dominated industry, so any man in this industry feels comfortable enough to speak out, and if it take whatever it takes, if it's doing videos like this to bring awareness to it or whatever, that's kind of my goal.